What difference would a professional race engineer make to your performance? Well, I thought it would be fun to show you a bit of a behind the scenes for a meeting that I've got coming up this weekend. And I thought I'd show you how I go about approaching it so that maybe you can get some inspiration and some ideas about ways in which you can improve the performance and also the approach to your time on track. It's a bit of an experiment, I'll be honest with you. I don't actually know if this is going to go out or not, but I'm going to give it a go and let's see how the weekend goes. And I'm going to start off because the big thing here is it's not about the driver's outcome, as in the race results. That will be, for me, will determine whether or not this weekend has been a successful. So the first thing as an engineer that I want to think about is what are our expectations and what can we learn? How can we get to be sat back here, this time next week and have some confidence and have some knowledge that we can then use for the future? For me, that is the goal. There's all of the stuff that we're going to do between now and then, but just want to sort of flag that at the beginning. For me, success is that we have made some progress and we know some things about the performance, about the driver's preferences, about how we can work to improve our future selves, right? So how can we help our future selves? So that's sitting here now. It's Wednesday. I'm about to jump on a pre-call with the driver for the weekend. But really, that's where my mind's at. I'm thinking, what are we trying to achieve by this time next week? And then everything I've done so far is and will be doing, it is just working backwards from that. Okay? It's working backwards from that to now. So everything that we're thinking about doing are all the decisions we're going to make in the messy and noisy and non-linear world that we'll be stepping into once I come out of the office and out to a track in North Wales. That's the kind of thing that will be constantly guiding me through all of the different decisions that I'll be, being made. And we'll either succeed on the track or it will be a complete disaster, anything in between. But all the time I'm thinking already, what can we learn? Okay, so that's my first thing. I'm going to jump on a call with the driver now. What I've already done by this point for him, I have done a track map. And so this driver I've worked with before, he's fast, he's a race winner, he's the current lap record holder actually at where we're going. So it's an interesting one to think. You may not think, oh, well, what are we going to, what's success here? If anything less than a win, obviously, is maybe not so good. And I just want to roll things back a little bit and try and improve the way in which we go to these meetings such that we have a little bit more process while still being fun, and we have a little bit more understanding of where we're at. So we're not starting every weekend from zero. Okay, so as I sit here now, we're starting again from zero. We've got some idea of tire pressures and we've got some idea of which way the corners go. We've got some feeling for the weather, and we've got the layout and the sessions that are planned. But other than that, we haven't really got an overarching development goal for the driver. We haven't got an overarching development goal for the car. And these are the kind of things that I'm going to want to introduce, because that's the race engineering part. That's the difference here. We want to go from how do we optimize in the moment to when we're in the moment, how do we take that bank of knowledge that we've established over some deliberate testing and just make our decisions a little bit more robust, reliable, and successful. Okay, so without getting too complicated. So what we've got 3 days at the event, but my work is very much front loaded on the test day, which ironically, if you're the driver, it's almost like the other way around in your head. You're kind of like, I'll just do a bit of testing, warm myself up before the main event is at the weekend, the qualifying particularly, then into a couple of races, which should be exciting. For me as a race engineer, it's actually the other way around. All my work happens before so that I'm able to sort of give you, the driver, a plan and a car that's going to enable you to get the most performance in those fun sessions on the weekend. Okay. So I just want to show the driver and give him some feel that we have a structure to the weekend and something we can get into a little bit of a routine. Okay, so you can sit and you can think about all these different things that you want to achieve. So I'm working with him. We haven't really got some great information about tire pressure, so I'm going to spend quite a bit of time in the morning on Friday looking at tire pressures and evaluating those, doing different tests and getting his feel for that. It's not just a pure engineering thing. It's like, how do you feel about it? So, where's the grid? Where's the those? And then I've got some ideas in the afternoon about maybe playing around with the corner weights and seeing if we can maybe compromise the balance on, some of the corners to then gain on some of the other corners. And so this is my engineering head coming in. This is me trying to optimize for the corners, but I want to have a chat with the driver. He may not feel comfortable about that. But this is my sort of pre-work here. This is my thinking going in to the weekend. I want to be sure we know what tire pressure to aim at. I want to understand how coachable this driver is around some of these things. I want to get some of their feedback. So this is all for next week. So I want to sit here and say I've got confidence in the pressures. I've got the driver now doing feedback. He's got into the habit of it. We've evaluated some balance setup changes. So by changing these corner weights, I'm going to make the car worse in some places with the idea that we make it better in other places. And on the computer, that kind of works out. But in reality, with the driver, that may knock his confidence too much. And he may think, you know what, I'd rush mileage, just have a balanced car for the racing and just leave it as it is. But so these are the things that I want to experiment with ahead of time. So while this went on a bit longer than I thought, I am going to jump off this now and going to speak to my driver. And I'm excited to see how the weekend pans out. It's that feeling at the beginning of, I don't quite know. I've got some high hopes for the results, high hopes for the learning. And now I've got high hopes for this behind the scenes that I'm doing. So, okay. So I've just come off my call with my driver. It wasn't yesterday as planned, but then that is the life of a driver coach and race engineer. These, as you'll appreciate, they've got a life going on outside of work. But we've just come off the call, and what's been really interesting is that my driver's already thinking about the weekend. He's sort of saying, I've been really busy with work, I haven't done this, that, X, Y, and Z, but then produced a whole long list of things that he is looking to achieve and try and experiment with this weekend, which is, for me, is like absolutely fantastic because it's already thinking about, I'm not just going to go around there and use my testing session to chase for that time. We're going to use that time to try and learn something. So, I've shared with him my plan, and our goal is, after quite a long trip ahead of us to get to the track, our goal is to have a debrief in person over a beer and try and cement what we're going to do tomorrow. The weather's looking not great, so but it's almost worse than not great. It's sort of, it could be dry and it could be wet, and so we're kind of trying to have to plan for both, and we're going to have to adapt in the moment. But what we're trying to do is run through each of those scenarios of, right, this is what I'd like to try, this is what he wants to try through a dry day, and then equally on a wet day. So, well, next time I see you, hopefully I will be at the track. But here we go. So here we are. We've made it to the track. It's quite windy. Everyone's set up, and so the plan is all set for tomorrow. We're still not sure what the weather's going to do, but after a long journey, this is probably a typical scene that you will see, recognise, I'm sure, from coming to a race meeting, if you can hear me. And so all set tomorrow, depending on the weather. So let's see. So it's testing morning, as you can see. The weather is looking marvellous. We're about to go and do a corner weight. The schedule today is pretty tight. They're putting this down to like every minute, it's down to the minute. So it's going to be a busy day, but I'll try and keep some updates going through the day, and hopefully we can track some progress. So the first session is basically just a drive, a warm up and a bit of a shakedown. They've made a few changes on the car, so just want to make sure they're all okay. And then yeah, we're going to get into some performance stuff from the second and third session onwards. So yeah, let's see how we get on. So session 1 is done. We're about to start session 2. Slight change of plan because it was cut short, the last one, so we're going to focus again on some driving techniques that we've seen in the data. Keep on taking the pressures and the temperatures. Normal technology fun where it just doesn't work. Technology's shy, works great in the office and not in the track, and I'm sure you'll appreciate that. But anyway, that's the plan, and we'll go again. Here we are, about to head out for session 3. Driver had a small engine issue in the last session, so we haven't had a representative session yet, unfortunately, but still getting some useful information in terms of the balance. And the driver's up for trying some stuff, so we're going to experiment. We're going to try something on the setup and see if it works. And yeah, so that's the plan. And yeah, we'll see how we get on the other side. So it's now after lunch, and managed to get some good data in the last session. So making some setup changes for this next one, which hopefully will bring a bit more balance to the car. Got a little bit confused with some of the feedback, because it was kind of, driver's been saying I was struggling with understeer, and so we tried some stuff to take a little bit of stiffness off the front. But what we're going to try and do this afternoon is be guided a little bit more with the tyres, and so try and get a bit more temperature in the tyre. So I think it's an experiment, another one, and yeah, we're going to give that a go and see if we can nail this balance before close of play today. And yeah, that is the plan. So here we are, about to start qualifying after yesterday having a few setup battles, you might call it. We've made this decision, and learning is over, and the competition starts. But we're still going to try and learn something from this session, and the weather's changed. It still looks sunny, but it's a lot cooler than it was yesterday. And so yeah, so we just made some adjustments to pitches. We kind of kept the balance hopefully the same, so we'll see how it goes. So quali went a bit disappointing. Got third overall, which is not to be sniffed at, but a reasonable gap to the front. It's pretty windy, and so the pole man got a pretty mega toe, which we worked out was about 6/10 worth. So after initial disappointment, we're sort of not quite as upset, and certainly think we're in the ballpark for a faster race. So let's hope the weather holds, and we've got a plan for the race. So constant evolution and learning. Okay. In the collecting area for the race. So it makes a nervous time for the drivers. A bit of a delay in the schedule, but looking to try and put everything we've learned into action. Find the best compromise we can. Another interesting test. But yeah, let's see how this one goes. As you can see, that is P2, folks. So interesting. I haven't spoken to the driver yet, but from a results point of view, very happy, and mega race. Interested to see what happens. Great podium. So different conditions today. It has rained heavily overnight, so still trying to take the learning from the weekend. But yeah, the plan is to lift the pressures a bit and give ourselves a bit more grip, and go out there and try and find the grip wherever they can on the line. It's tricky, but let's see if the driver can make the difference. So we're back now after a good trip home. Rather, the weather has turned a bit more miserable here. And now, for the engineering side, a lot of the work really begins. We've got through the weekend, we've had a result, but we've also done quite a lot in testing. Some of it worked, some of it didn't work. And it's now a task away from the heat of the moment, as it were, and the pressure to really sort of sit with some of the numbers, sit with some of the information that we've gathered, and see if we can really try and compile that learning. So I'm going to head to the office and see how we get on with it. So here we are, a week later. What have we learned, if anything? Was it worthwhile? Did we learn anything? And what could we do better to help ourselves in the future? So I hope you've enjoyed this behind the scenes side. We started out from this base in a very calm and methodical way. We had a plan for every session. We had a timetable for what we were going to do, and some learning objectives that were important, certainly for me, race engineering this car for the first time with this driver, to try and get a feel for where we're at. So those kind of learning objectives were very much around the balance of the car and trying to understand how the driver would react to changes in those balance, and also the tires, and understanding, or trying our best to understand, well, what is a good range to be in? How could we validate that more or less? And so that was the plan going in. It was all quite calm, and then, as you know, every plan fails at the first sight of the enemy, but then this is part of it. So this is part of the process of okay, but we still have those bigger learning objectives. So yes, we may change the test process that we're going to do for this session, but overall we're still working towards understanding those 2 or 3 things. So we've been through the weekend and we made some adjustments. So we went wrong with some of the adjustments, and then we went back to where we wanted to go. And it was all, but we've kind of all been through that learning. We've documented the whole thing. I had a good couple of race results, and now we're back on the other side, back in this sort of calmer environment. And I spent quite a bit of time looking at the information that we gathered, the data, the feedback, the tire information that was there, and just trying to reflect on the weekend in a bit more of a calm way, such that we can sort of summarize what in the moment is kind of noise and lots of ideas, and we've got to change this and we've got to do that. And one of the things that we discovered was we took the car in a certain way with a balance, and we've run out, or we kind of got boxed in a little bit with some of the adjustments that the car has. And so on reflection, my suggestion going back to the team is that we may be, within the rules or within the opportunities that they have, their capabilities, their budget, try and adjust some of the settings of the car so that we can kind of recalibrate the extremes and then kind of go again. So we can sort of actually go, well, we've gone to this particular setting, and really we want to go a little bit further. So that is what the summary has, that sort of reflective bit. That's where I sort of fed back to the team of okay, so we've had a good weekend, we had a plan for going in, we've had some good results, but now go further forward, it's sort of what can we do to improve things further. And part of that is not only about the car, but about the process. So I was working with a new mechanic and in effect a new driver for this kind of work, this engineering work. And it was a case of, well, what can we learn from that experience, from a process point of view, what happened in the moment during testing? What can we take away from that so that if we're in that and ran it again tomorrow, we would be, we'd make a slightly different decision on how to run those sessions to try and make sure that we got the most out of everyone. There was another question that came up that was very popular with discussion with the drivers, was between a couple of corners about whether it was a third or fourth gear corner. I mean, it must be the most common driver discussion in the world ever. And we made a decision strategically at the time about going in one way, because at the end of the day, in this particular corner, there wasn't a massive amount to be gained or lost. And so I felt it was more important that the driver made a decision, they were comfortable with how they were taking the corner, and then just got the reps in for doing it, rather than being indecisive about it the whole time and being like we either do it one way or another way, because it was quite different in terms of how you'd approach it. We've been able to now back in the office, reflect on that and think actually, and look at the numbers and think, right, was it the right decision? And actually I found another opportunity that the drivers weren't talking about that may have benefited us even more. And so what we're going to do, or what working forward, if I was working with this team again, I'm now kind of baking those kind of aspects into the process for the test day. So looking at those core metrics, I didn't know what data was going to be available before the weekend, and now it's a case of, okay, well, now on reflection, we can make that information a little bit more visible. And so that when we go either back to this track, we know now which gears to be in, but when we go to the next track, it's very, very clear, okay, we can use some of these metrics and some of this information to make sure that when the other drivers are having that discussion, we know what we're going to do. Okay. And we're having a very much more self-reliant conversation. And I think that's the real message here, is that we want to be self-reliant with all of this stuff, with regards to tire pressures, with regards to balance in the car, with regards to line, with regards to gear choices, with regards to how we approach each corner of the lap, both for a one-off qualifying or for a race. With this particular event, it was a drying track, and so that poses almost one of the most complicated setup choices you have, because you don't quite know. You're sitting there and it's wet, but you have a feeling that during this session it's going to go dry or drier. So what do you do? And so we made a decision to go with more of a wet setup so that we had the right grip at the beginning. But then from a driver coaching point of view, it's a case of asking that driver to hang on a little bit and not try and take too much out of the tires when things started to dry out, imagining that pretty much everyone else is going to be going for it. And anything that they could do just to hang on to a bit of tyre life for the end of the race, my feeling was that was going to come back to them, and it did. So, yeah, so these are the kind of things that when you cover as a race engineer, yes, it's about the car. You set up springs, dampers, tyres. Yes, there's a driver coaching bit, looking at the data, looking at the video, looking at the line, looking at all these objective metrics, trying to get give the driver the best plan. And then there's a strategic side of, well, given the situation that's happening now, what is the best thing to do? And it was a really fun weekend. So I hope you found this behind the scenes useful. I kind of waffled on quite a bit now with this bit, so I'll close it up. I hope it helps you and gives you some confidence that, it's not all smooth sailing, it's not all calm and premeditated. There's calm and premeditated before, there's calm and premeditated afterwards, and then there's the noise of the actual event itself and navigating that. But it's like, well, okay, so things went wrong. So what can I do now to sort of document that, so that and think through that, so that next time we're in that position, they won't go wrong again. And I think that's really the essence of motorsport and the essence of continuous learning. So, yeah, hope it helps.